of for the development of our students. George Zoupanos, you know better than me his contribution to science and especially physics. Needless to say that he has a lot of papers. He has been visiting professor nearly everywhere in the world. He has traveled a lot. He's, in fact, continuous traveler. The most important and the most impressive thing that he's still an active researcher. If someone searches his name in the platforms, just like Solar Scholar or Scopus, he can see, he can verify that he still published papers. But however, I guess that he's not, I'm sure that he's a devoted teacher. This can be proved by the fact that he organizes for decades the workshop, especially in Corfu and the summer schools. Thanks to George Zoupanos, the European Institute of Science and Applications was established. I think that he has been established since 2006 and is flourishing, still flourishing. It accommodates 24 members. I think that we have to support this initiative. We, as a National Technical University of Athens, together, of course, with the Corfu public authorities. What I can say, I prefer to finish now. I'm sure that you have many words to say for George Zoupanos. I wish him health and to be still contribute to science and be with us for many, many years, inspiring us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Chatjigeorgiou, very much for your nice words in GeorgeFest. So now we have the pleasure to give the floor to Katerina Zachariadou, which is the president of the Society of Particle Physics of Greece.
Good morning. Can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Okay. So, dear colleagues, it is both an honor and a great pleasure to be invited to GeorgeFest as part of the 23rd Hellenic School and workshops on elementary particle physics and gravity to pay tribute to Professor George Zoupanos. Allow me to begin by sharing that I would have very much liked to be present today, but unfortunately it was impossible. I have the words I wish to convey carefully scripted for the simple reason that I want to ensure that every sentiment, every memory, and every tribute is presented with the precision and the warmth that this occasion deserves. Well, here on behalf of the Hellenic Society for the Study of High Energy Physics Council, I would like to thank George for his continuous commitment and support of science and education in the field of high energy physics over the years. Allow me to remind all of us and inform you that George Zoupanos was one of the 27 scientists who founded the Hellenic Society for the Study of HEP back in 1981. Their vision was not only to promote the scientific work of Greek scientists and to inform the Greek state about matters related to HEP, but also to inform the general public and mostly provide opportunities for young researchers and doctoral students to gain knowledge in this field and present their work, their scientific work. On a personal note, I cannot forget how important it was for our supervisors and us as doctoral students to attend and give a talk at the HEP conferences. Today, let me tell you that this community comprises approximately 270 Greek scientists, both in Greece and abroad, working in the field of HEP and astroparticle physics. Therefore, it's obvious that George's vision 40 years ago remains alive, and as many of you are aware, we are trying to keep it vibrant and thriving. For George, the education of young physicists has always been of paramount importance, as evidenced by his involvement in founding the Hellenic Society, establishing the Corfu summer schools, and participating in numerous other initiatives. I recall the numerous times he urged the Society's executive committee to explore funding avenues for the doctoral students, a task that the Society should undertake once it overcomes the administrative challenges it currently faces. And George, I am optimistic that these issues will be resolved soon. In my opinion, George is undeniably correct in asserting that one of the primary rationales for the existence of our society must indeed encompass this very aspect. Dear George, for me personally, let me tell that the Corfu School, which I attended as a doctoral student back in 1992, has offered so much. I have an indelible memory of the enthusiasm I had for the lectures and for the prominent scientists I encountered for the first time. And as you know, creating a school that, apart from knowledge, instills enthusiasm is of immeasurable value, because enthusiasm is often the driving force behind successful learning and advancement in a demanding field. I also have a humorous memory. During a break in Liston, at the table near ours, there was a famous speaker. Maybe you know, but I won't mention names, who had placed his slides on the table and was flipping through them before his lecture. And out of nowhere, a dog appeared and playful snatched few slides, taking them to the grass to chew on at its leisure. And the speaker rushed after them, and we, all students around, joined in to rescue the slides and, of course, the lesson. So, dear George, I want to express my gratitude, not only on behalf of the Hellenic Society Executive Committee, but also personally for all that you have contributed. Be well, and may your creativity continue to flourish. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Zachariadou, for your nice contribution. Now we have the pleasure to give the floor to Professor Aristides Baltas, ex-Minister of Culture, Education, and Religious Affairs of Greece. So, Professor Baltas, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. It is for me as well an occasion of thanking you for the privilege of participating GeorgeFest in these conditions in Corfu. And I would just say that Yorgos has been a kind of force of nature. I was in the physics department when he arrived there for the first time. We have been sharing the same building for many years. Me too, I had a PhD in high energy physics at the time, but I was getting away from it. I was starting to become interested in philosophy of science, and it was an issue of whether the department would allow me to do this, nevertheless. One of the big supporters of my getting away from HEP was Giorgos, who thought that philosophy of science should be within the curriculum of physicists, that it was a discipline that could allow both a historical look and a more, let's say, outside look on how science works, and particularly high-energy physics. And he even invited me in some of the first, in fact, summer schools in Corfu. We shared also the island of Corfu because him and me are natives of the island. And he was always bursting with ideas about how the summer school could progress, how this was important for the island as well as for Greece in general. He was always eager to have students participate and take part actively in the conferences like that. And he was a kind of, as I said, force of nature, because he was always bursting with ideas on all possible levels, not just high-energy physics, but the general, let's say, curriculum of the physics department at the National Technical University, as a matter of fact. He was active in all kinds of, let's say, battles regarding different issues of more general interest. And he was always characterized by an activity, let's say, of principle, which was brave, which was always, how can I say, clear on the ideas and the ideals of the question. And he even paid for that, because he was persecuted in court because of some demonstration we all did together, as a matter of fact, at the time. And he never, let's say, wavered from this kind of principles. His humor was well understood by everybody. His voice was heard on all three floors of the physics department. He was always eager to participate in whatever international events was happening about history and not just high-energy physics, but the history and philosophy of high-energy physics. And so we developed a kind of relationship, although we don't meet very often from then on. We keep in touch, we call each other, we continue to have more or less the same interests on all levels. And it's real pleasure and not just honor, but real pleasure to participate in this conference. Of course, I couldn't be in Corfu. I would have liked very much to be there, not just for Giorgos, but for Corfu itself. And so let me wish Giorgos to continue with his work for many years to come, to help students in the unique way he has to help them, to promote the ideas of history of high-energy physics and all what is related to that, with his open mind, his energy, and his, let's say, personality, which is, despite agreements and his flowing hair all the years, is absolutely crucial for the development of Greek academia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Baltas, for your nice words. So now we have the pleasure to invite to the floor Professor Nikos Markatos, ex-rector of the National Technical University of Athens. Professor Markatos, you are muted. Can you open your microphone?
Okay, now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dear colleagues and friends, ladies and gentlemen, we have all gathered here today to honor scientific work and other related activities, particularly in Kerkyra, of Professor George Zoupanos. The scientific work of the honoree, which can hardly fit, let alone be fully evaluated in the context of a ceremony, will be mentioned by others, I'm sure, much more specialist in his scientific field than myself. However, this is not a reason to sidestep the main purpose of my presence in today's ceremony. We became acquainted in 1990 when I was a candidate for the university's rector post, both believing in the need of radical change and in creating a new era for education and research and for more democratic university proceedings. George became immediately a member of a support committee, which included several professors. I'm extremely glad to see Aristides Baltas here, for example, whom I haven't seen for several years now. Members, some of whom later became ministers of state. The result was successful both in the 1991 and in the 1994 election, and George became very active both inside the university and outside the university. For example, inside the university, he was a member of the Senate committee that virtually created the postgraduate studies, while he arranged for himself and myself to visit a village in Kerkyra, Korakiana, where in my speech I presented for the first time a pilot plant form of what is now known as the European Institute of Science and their applications, the EISA Institute, an idea that took more than 10 years for NTUA to sign. The Institute has now many well-known international members and is hosting leading scientific activities, such as European network meetings, summer schools, experimental collaboration meetings, and workshops in elementary particle physics, both theoretical and experimental. George also organized my participation to outreach events of the Kerkyra activities via radio and TV interviews. Back now to George's CV, I think we should mention a few things like, for example, that he has been research associate at MPI Munich and CERN Geneva, of course, visiting professor at ITP Heidelberg University, at Sommerfeld Institute LMU Munich, at Institute de Fisica Teoretica UAM CSIC Madrid, visiting professor at Humboldt University Berlin, and at Kanazawa University, Kanazawa, Japan, throughout the world, in other words. The complete list of his published research work contains more than 200 scientific publications, out of which 130 in leading international scientific journals. He has received more than 5,000 citations and has an H index of 40 according to the Google Scholar. He has done many scientific visits to more than 60 different universities and research institutes. And in most places, he has presented research seminars, usually more than once. He has participated as a speaker in more than 100 international conferences, workshops, and schools, and in more than 70 as an invited main speaker lecturer. He was participating for many, many years in more than 40 national and European research programs, in many of them as coordinator or as principal investigator. Concerning his work in Kerkyra, I personally appreciate very much that he actually started the school's conferences in Kerkyra back in 1981 too. In other words, these schools exist for over 40 years now. This is an achievement for me. It is interesting to note that last year they made a new record with 8 international conferences and 800 registrations. George also assisted for the peripheral buildings of the Summer Palace, now the Meropi Museum, to belong to the Kerkyra municipality, and then ensure funding for their restoration. When this task will be accomplished, let me tell you that until now 2 buildings are ready, work for the third is in progress. The buildings will be used by the scientists who take part in the activities of the Kerkyra Summit, with main purpose the in situ production of scientific work. In other words, work on top of school and conferences that are currently the main work of the participating scientists. Before I close this topic, I would like to remark, because I know how the Greek civil services work, that it is advisable, George, that you ensure the use of those buildings, even though I know that there has been a legal commitment to this end. But you never know in Greece, George. It is important, I think, because this new activity will put the scientific output of Kerkyra on a different level. Based on the above, it is concluded that today's honored man was above all a productive, visionary, and founder of several of Kerkyra's scientific activities. George showed that it is possible to specialize and glorify science in all its dimensions and aspects, so that it serves society. His work for Kerkyra shows in a vivid and perfectly visible way that the scientist is not necessarily a one-dimensional person, a technocrat as he is usually called, that passion for technology is not synonymous with confinement of a scientist in a sterile developmentalism, as we all hear this word, development around us, but a lever for human freedom. For the pursuit of development is not a blind course of automatism, but a conscious one, which each time weighs specifically the objects in question, the human cost, the motives, and the results. In closing this brief reference, which has the status of an address, I would like to underline that I refer to what I personally, as a person, have recorded and noted as important elements of the honored professor's contribution. This personal note bears the stamp of partiality and imperfection, of course, engraved on it. There is no doubt. But it also has an advantage. It follows that experimental and experiential relationship with the happenings that deep down, I believe, George Zoupanos is trying to convey to us. So I hope it stays true to the basic message of the honoree's overall spiritual attitude, for which I, along with everyone else, would like to thank you. Thank you, George. Thank you very much indeed, and be well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Makatos, for your contribution in GeorgeFest. So now, since he just arrived, we have the pleasure to give the floor to Mr. Dimitrios Metarinos, the President of the Corfu Municipality Council. Mr. Metarinos, thank you very much.
First of all, good morning und für die Vortragende herzlich willkommen in unsere Heimat, hier in unserer Insel. Herzlich willkommen. Ich weiß, dass die meisten Deutsche sind, aber ich werde, Entschuldigung, auf Englisch sprechen. So, I present here the Council of the Municipality, Municipal Council. Here's our area. Here we have our discussions and our meetings. And I'm speaking also in the name of our mayor, Mrs. Meropi, Ydraiou. Scheduled for around Professor Zoupanos. These changes were a little bit difficult for us to change. That is why I'm here. In this person, it's Professor George Zoupanos. That's an institution. And this is very important because before we established, again, re-established the young university, the first Greek university, 1824. Professor Zoupanos is the unique person held here. These meetings, important scientific, one of the first members of the committee, administration of the established university. Now, of course,
It's hard to hear.
I have this. May I continue? May I continue? Still positions. Us now. Us now. These two positions. First of all, as the president of the municipal council, and second, as a member of the university, that I'm really proud that Professor George Zoupanos is a graduate, is a Greek, and it's made us very proud again. So we'd like to thank you very much. The whole council of our majors and the time in difficult times. Without much material and I mean money. So, the young person with many things, and we try to follow you. So, please keep our respect and our love and our trust. And may God give you health, many decades, and thank you. We are grateful for everything that you've done for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Kalinowski, for your contribution to GeorgeFest. I think now, since I can see that he's online, we should give the floor to Professor Ydraiou, ex-director of the National Technical University of Athens. So, Professor Ydraiou, can you hear us? Yes, can you hear us? Okay, since he's present in the auditorium, I think we should give the floor to Mr. Sarlis Chrysanthos, ex-mayor of Corfu municipality. And so we can call our collaborator, Stamatella Puli, to help us with the translation.
Με ιδιαίτερη χαρά γνωρίζω τους μαθητές του Ελληνού Σεμιναρίου Ινστιτούτου Φυσικής, το οποίο συμπληρώνει 40 χρόνια διεξαγωγής.
Good morning, all. It is a great pleasure for me to meet everybody, all the participants of the Summer Institute School of Science here in Corfu, which is nearly 40 years now inactive.
Ο Γιώργο τον γνώρισα από κοντά το 1991, όταν ήταν η πρώτη χρονιά που ήμουν δήμαρχος του Κέρκυρα και συνεργαστήκαμε επί 12 χρόνια μέχρι το 2002 για τους σκοπούς αυτού του θερινού Ινστιτούτου, το οποίο πέρασε διάφορες περιπέτειες για να βρει χώρο να διεξαχθεί κάθε φορά. Πέρασε από την Ιόνιο Βουλή, πέρασε από το Φαλιράκι, τοποθεσίες στην παλιά πόλη. Νομίζω ότι κάποιο διάστημα ήρθε και εδώ, όταν ήμουν εγώ. Ήταν μια εντυπωσιακή βεβαίως διαδικασία. Στην αρχή εμείς είμαστε και λίγο άσκεπτοι με αυτά τα θέματα, στοιχειώδη σωματίδια κτλ. Βεβαίως σήμερα που όλα αυτά τείνουν να γίνουν και πιο οικεία και στους μη φυσικούς, ήταν μια πολύ σημαντική διαδικασία, ένα πολύ σημαντικό σεμινάριο που τίμησε την Κέρκυρα και που τα 47 χρόνια πέρασαν την Κέρκυρα στην ιστορία αυτής της διεξαγωγής της έρευνας στη φυσική.
Hey, I have met George back in 1991. It was my first year as the mayor of Corfu. And we have been through a lot in order to establish the summer school and the great value that it gives in Corfu. I remember, excuse me, I remember that we have been being scattered around many places until we found this place as the most or the more permanent place and roof for the summer school. And I need to confess that we couldn't recognize the value of the summer school back then, but now we are more aware not of the physics and the science itself, but of the great value that it gives to our place.
Είχα την τύχη τότε να δεξιωθώ και να μας επισκεφτούν στο δημοτικό, στο Δημαρχείο, 3, αν δεν κάνω λάθος, ή 4 νομπελίστες. Είδος ουσιώδες ανεπαρκία βεβαίως για μας. Και αυτό ήταν μια ιδιαίτερη στιγμή ιστορική για την Κέρκυρα και προσωπικά και για μένα.
And a memorable time that I recall is that, if I'm not mistaken, 3 or 4 scientists, having awarded with the Nobel Prize, have visited us. And this is something that really stands out with these whole years that I've been home, George.
Συγχαίρω τον Γιώργο για αυτή την ιστορική προσπάθεια, για το έργο το οποίο έχει προσφέρει, για τους εκατοντάδες καθηγητές οι οποίοι πέρασαν από την Κέρκυρα, για τις εργασίες, οι οποίες είναι πλέον μια διαδικασία η οποία συνδέεται με την Κέρκυρα και εύχομαι αυτό να συνεχιστεί για το καλό της φυσικής και της επιστήμης. Ο Δήμος Κερκυραίων πιστεύω ότι είναι πάντα φιλόξενος για να συντηρεί αυτή τη σχέση συνεργασίας με το θερινό Ινστιτούτο.
I need to congratulate George for the great value that these conferences and the summer school offers, not only to the science itself, but also to Corfu. And I believe that George's devotion and his efforts will continue, and his vision is going to give much more to the forthcoming years.
Ευχαριστώ πολύ και εύχομαι καλή συνέχεια και καλές εργασίες.
Thank you. I'll try to speak. Good morning, everyone. Dear members, distinguished participants to this school, ladies and gentlemen, written something for my friend George. It was a great pleasure and honor that I accept this invitation to take part of this fest. One of my dear friend, Professor George Zoupanos, this tireless, exquisite Corfu scientist who is inextricably linked to this institute. The yearly meetings of this institute in Corfu with the significant scientific works and workshops. It is a coincidence that these meetings started the same year that I was voted for the first time in the Municipal Council of Corfu, far back in 1982. With George, I had the privilege to work very closely during my office as mayor of the island of Corfu in the years 2014-2019. The difficult years, the years of austerity, big restrictions, no money, memoranda, etc. During these years, besides the very productive, we had the opportunity to come closer to each other. And he made me part of the ambitious and great plan to establish a permanent basis for this institute in Corfu. tireless as he is, stubborn, systematic, George mobilized all the municipal technical apparatus, the studies, the plans, even paid for these plans, and put an effort along with our effort to take back from the Ministry of Culture the 4 buildings. And this is the project, the program, and she the funds to finance the project. And I'm talking about a project that is still in progress, which I think give the business to house the issue in the very near future. It's a great achievement, the creation of significant structures which can house academic establishments, scientists and academics who can work in good conditions all year round in Corfu. I don't really but also other scientific and academic establishments can use meetings, seminars, workshops, etc. It is my understanding that this tradition shares a goal to the familiarity as well. That is the program international tourism destination, but also the functionalities and people and science communities. So the situation. Every year, one year now, as the town, the most prominent scientists of the world in the area of business, and also a great number of students will be the taxes. Science and it's the same friends. It's all the great understanding of Professor George Zoupanos. And concentration, commitment, Thank you for that. Thank you very much. So I think since he is here, we should proceed with Professor Kalinowski. He is present yet because the other people are not connected remotely. So I think that we have your next contribution now, just to give some time for people to connect. No, he was before, now he's not here.
My goodness, I mean, I was not expecting to speak. I started to prepare something because I'm not a very good speaker, especially in such occasions. I mean, this is the first time that I have to give a tribute during a fiesta. I think I met George the first time in mid-80s when he participated in Kazimierz conferences, in one of them at that time. It was a series of conferences organized by University of Warsaw, starting in 1977 and continuing up to 1990, I think 4 or 5. And later on, this series of conferences tend to be called the Planck conferences. And every 5 years he's coming to Warsaw, and George is quite often coming to Warsaw. So thanks, George, for your contributions to these conferences and all the good contacts. So we have many occasions to discuss. And now my first visit to Corfu conference was in 1998. At that time, the conference site was under the bridge to the old castle of the old fortress. So it was a very nice location, I must say, very close to the center of the city. So during the coffee breaks, we could go in various places. So it was very nice. And then there was a break, and I came again to Corfu from, I think, 2008. I don't remember exactly, but then since then, George hooked me. I mean, he pinned me down to this conference, and then I'm coming almost every year, helping organizing this event. And he's, I must say, very stubborn, but very nice person, very gentle. He can press with kindness, and you don't really realize that you are supposed to do something. Okay, so as I said, we have, and I must say that George was always eager to get as many students as he could. I mean, this was his dream, to have really a school. And for a number of years, this was really a school and a workshop. So in the morning, we had a series of lectures on introductory lectures to students. And in the afternoon, there were contributed talks in workshops, more specialized. And also in the afternoon, we had a discussion session that all the lecturers had to be present here, and students could ask whatever questions they wanted. And he really is so much disappointed that it cannot continue because of the lack of funding. At that time, there was some, so he was always trying to get really students funded, and hopefully maybe it will become again this kind of school with many students coming to Corfu and learning physics. Now, I should also mention that during these meetings, George wanted always to organize some cultural events. This is quite also interesting, just supporting the cultural or local Corfu culture, dancing, and probably you've seen yesterday how fantastic dancer he is. And this is the only conference that I attended to. I attended many conferences, but I never saw a chairperson of the conference to dance and bring other people to dance together with him. So this is something that people do remember when they talk about Corfu, that this is a very peculiar event in that sense. Let me also mention an important person who is really a supporter of this Corfu, and George in particular. I mean his wife, Ritza. Without your support and your understanding that George has to disappear so many times from home, we really do appreciate. So many thanks also go to you. I mean, without you, it wouldn't be really the same event. So I think that that's all what I would like to say. Maybe if I had to speak in the afternoon, I could remember something more, but okay. George, so great success. Have these buildings done. I mean, there are so many mayors here. So maybe finally these buildings will be finished and it will be as you dreamed already, how many, 40 years ago. So I wish you really success. George.
I think now we could have a sort of this actually for questions, and then we'll be continuing. Thank you all.